Welcome back to Bull Sessions here on 680 KFEQ. Here's your hosts, Randy Baker and agronomist Brad Law.
Here we are again. Welcome back to Bull Sessions. Kevin Bradley, we still got a lot to talk about with Kevin.
He's lots and lots of information there.
He's brilliant.
Wealth of information.
He is. But this is, at this time, though, we do Our Lady in Ag.
Well, you know, Valentine's Day's coming up.
Yep.
Very important holiday for the girls.
It is.
And we are highlighting that, Women in Ag, on our show.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you have for us this week, Randy?
An awesome individual, Sharon Cornelius.
Oh, where is
lives
she?
out by Cosby, Missouri.
Okay.
Yep. Sharon's a good friend of mine. She's a good sister in Christ. She's 100% agriculture of all kinds. Doesn't matter.
That is cool.
Her and her husband, Kerry, they dairied forever up until 2012. Yeah, 2012, I think is what she told me they quit. But they still do row crop.
Row crop.
She's been a huge inspiration to me in many ways, spiritually, personally. Also, she's not only a big advocate of the farm, the family farm and all, but she's also the president and CEO of the new Agribusiness Expo Center going out up here out on 36 Highway.
Right here in St. Joe.
Right here in St. Joe. That is going to be awesome.
You just pop out 36 a little way. Aren't they building a new interchange?
They are right now. It's under construction as we speak.
All right. That's going to be exciting when they get that done. That'll be great for St. Joe and all of Northwest Missouri.
And even the surrounding states.
Well, and even there in eastern Kansas.
It's going to be a big deal.
It is.
Southern Iowa, there's people talking about horse shows and all kinds of stuff there. So.
Well, you got hotels in St. Joe. You've got lots of good stuff that can happen at that building.
They'll have 100 and some RV hookups out there for people coming in with livestock and whatever. It's
That's
going
a lot
to be
of campers.
A big deal. It's still a ways off from being complete, but it'll be good. And like I said, back to Sharon here, you know, God bless her and her family because she spins a lot of plates and keeps them moving. Mm-hmm. I've talked to her. She's been sick with pneumonia and all, and she's still taking care of business.
All right.
Our hat is off to Sharon and her family. Now, as our hat is also off to our buddy Kevin Bradley from MU, weed scientist. Kevin, can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right, we're back again. Again, we want to thank you for coming on the show, talking about weeds today. Something that's a pretty big issue these days in herbicides is Dicamba. Let's talk about Dicamba for a little bit.
You bet. Yeah, so 2017 will be the first year that we have these two new herbicides that are both now approved. They're called XtendiMax with Vapor Grip and Ingenia, and they can be applied over the top of Xtend soybeans, and so it's going to be an introduction year for a lot of farmers into this new trait.
Right. It's pretty volatile, I hear.
Yeah, so we didn't get very good press in Missouri last year as a result of mostly the boot heel, but it wasn't just the boot heel, but there was some illegal applications of older, more volatile formulations made last year.
Mm-hmm.
And these new formulations, they're less volatile, but, less volatile, that doesn't mean they're not volatile. So these labels, these new products, they're unlike anything we've ever done. You can only use one nozzle. There's very specific, wind speeds you can and can't spray in. There's tractor speeds and pressures, and right now there's no tank mix partners. You can't put AMS with it. So there's just a whole lot that farmers aren't used to on these labels.
Right.
Well, I've purchased a high tunnel, Kevin, And our loving salesmen have been threatening to put a coffee cup of Dicamba in my high tunnel this summer. Like I said, I really don't like salesmen.
A lot of friends.
But that scares me as somebody that's growing, not just corn and soybeans and
your vegetables. Right.
And as a sprayer operator, the landlord's garden and all that stuff kind of can cause some issues. And so we want everybody to be careful when they are spraying.
Absolutely. I mean, your concern is well founded. I mean, I'm concerned too, and so we're trying to do everything we can so that ag doesn't get a bad reputation with this herbicide. I'm very worried about it, and not so much farmer to farmer with soybeans to soybeans. I think we can probably deal with those issues, and it'll kind of settle itself. I think there will be issues, but it's what you just said. It's the tomatoes, the hoop houses, the gardens, the peaches and apples, and all the other tobacco, and all the other high value crops we need to worry about.
And flowers. I mean, this is kind of it is a big deal. I'm not trying to be preach a whole lot of peril here, but yet we got to pay attention.
There's a lot of confusing things on this subject. Like, I think everybody can understand what physical drift is. Would you give us a refresher on what physical drift is, Kevin?
Well, it's simply drift right out of the sprayer. You're spraying, you get a wind gust, or you're spraying at a time when you shouldn't have been spraying anyway, and it was already too windy. And that's physical drift right out of the sprayer. It usually shows itself pretty obviously in the form of you have one field and you have another right next to it, and you see kind of like some total circular pattern where wind got hold of something and just blew it over into a certain area that's injured. And it's easier to kind of tell what happened in those situations.
All right. Now, another thing, like I'm a label junkie, and years ago, when our first child was born, we would read. I'd read chemical labels at night because we were staying at mom's and we couldn't have the TV on because it'd wake up the child. So I read chemical labels and your Mo Guide 171 book, and I memorized that chart for soybeans. And one thing in the chemical labels that always confused me was what in the world is a temperature inversion? And most farmers don't know what that is, and I understand it now, but could you try to shed some light on that?
Yeah, so, in 2016, we believe a lot of the dicamba that was a problem was due to temperature inversions. And so temperature inversion is just simply in normal conditions, sun is out, the sun's heating the Earth's surface, the air nearest that Earth's surface is warming and rising, cool air is falling, and there's this constant mixing of that air, and that's what creates wind. And a little wind is good, and that's a sign that a temperature inversion isn't occurring. It's usually a little bit of cloud cover. It's like I said, the sun is out, and those are all good conditions. What a temperature inversion is usually towards the evening, sun's going down or has gone down, and that warming is no longer occurring, and that constant mixing of air is no longer occurring, and the cold air will get trapped below this layer of warm air, and that is basically a temperature inversion that has occurred. Usually there is little to no wind and little to no cloud cover. And so what can happen is if you sprayed, say, at 5, 6 o'clock, which plenty of people have, or if you are spraying and you happen to be spraying into a temperature inversion, some of those spray particles are likely going to move horizontally along Earth's surface where you didn't intend them to. They're going to be trapped in that layer, and they're going to move overnight. And we've seen temperature inversions lasting typically 8 to 10 hours when they occur.
Oh,
that's
and
a big deal.
We're trying to educate people about that. You're exactly right. We've done a survey of our pesticide applicators in Missouri and basically found that, they really don't know what a temperature inversion is, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I didn't know much about them either until 3 or 4 years ago when we started studying them. And so we just got to get more people to understand that next year, if it were mine and if I'm going to spray dicamba, if that's what you choose to do, I'm sure not going to do it any time in the evening or, pretty much from 4 o'clock on, because of what our data says is there's a pretty good chance we're probably spraying into a temperature inversion when we do that.
Well, that's a big deal. That can cause a lot of damage. And what'd you say, 8 hours or whatever?
Yeah, and so that's where when you walk up to a field, which I spent most of the summer doing on this dicamba issue, and you don't see any real pattern. You see the whole field is completely injured.
Wow.
My mind starts to think that's really not physical drift. That's probably a temperature inversion that moved that into that whole area, and it just settled there.
Right.
But then there are times where you can see, it hugs the Earth's surface, and you see it move up.
Can you hold that thought, Kevin? We're going to have to break away again here for a minute, and we'll talk more with Kevin, Focus on the Farmer, coming up when we return to Bull Sessions on 680 KFEQ.